So I look for a motion to go to executive.
This fellow who's here is from the River Watershed Committee. Please can be pretty quick, or we should.
I'll try not to take too much of your time.
What are you thinking, 5 minutes or so, or is it? All right, certainly, we'll entertain him if you don't mind quickly.
Not
I
at all.
don't want to hold someone up. Come on up.
So I'm Michael Wood. A while back, before COVID, I was appointed delegate from the Barre Select Board to the Ware River Watershed Advisory Committee. They haven't had any meetings until just recently. I think they had one in July. Nothing much was taken up. But I reached out to, are you Jessica? And Greg, as to my status, and was told that I am still in place. So I contacted them. I got a man, Justin, who acts as their board secretary. He's at the Quabbin Visitor Center. And he said that they would need something on a Barre Selectman's letterhead.
Appointing you?
Appointing.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
Because presently they have Martha Varna as delegate. So I'm not sure what her status is.
Well, when do you have
He was
a,
appointed, and this may have been where that mix-up came in, he was appointed back in March of 2020,
Yes.
so
oh, COVID times?
All that stuff.
the beginning of craziness.
Do you want to vote it
So,
again?
we shouldn't have to vote again, just, I'd say draft a letterhead
Yeah.
for him and draft up the town letterhead, and
We're good
we
to
can
go?
vote to give her the authority to sign that letter.
Yep.
And I move that we have Jessica sign the letter on behalf of the board.
Second?
Motion second, to have Jessica sign the letter. Any further discussion? Hearing none, call for vote. All those in favor?
Yes.
Aye. Aye. So she will write you a letter in her letterhead, and she will sign on behalf of the Board of Selectmen.
Okay, you send it directly to them or to me?
Whichever you want her to do, or both.
Does it, to me, and then I'll get it to them.
Okay,
That'd be great.
yeah, because I was gonna say, I don't think I have his contact information.
Okay, it is Dan Clark,
Okay,
the head of the board.
okay. So.
Thank
I'll
you.
find his
Thank you for agreeing to serve.
CC
Yeah.
you on that.
Thank you.
It was an interesting meeting in July. Dylan and I were both there at that one, and we definitely need to keep an eye on them.
So I wasn't aware because I hadn't heard anything.
Nope,
from-
nobody was. We just
Okay.
found out about it literally
Was it
the
here?
couple days.
Yeah.
It was
Yeah.
at the Old Town Hall building. It got leaked out on Facebook. Somebody commented about it, so we both wound up showing up to see what was going on because we didn't even know what the meeting was being held for.
Did anything
people-
transpire?
Not really.
Oh.
They've changed directors and they've done a lot of backpedaling. They talked about some of the cuttings they're doing. They're taking out some of the pine trees in different areas. That's about all they decided on. Everything else they said is just kind of waiting to get direction from their new supervisor.
Okay.
Sums it up, I think,
Yeah.
as briefly as
So
we
once they hear something official from this board, they'll include me in any schedule of upcoming meetings and minutes from meetings and stuff, and I can
can.
get
Excellent.
back to you.
Awesome.
Great.
Look forward to it. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you, Mike.
You.
I'm going to make a motion to move to executive session for Chapter 30, Section 21A, conduct strategy and preparations for negotiations with non-union personnel, specifically our two chiefs.
Second?
Motion and a second to move to executive session, and I should add, we will be continuing our regular meeting after executive session.
And you invite counsel into executive session in your motion.
Okay, and then,
Sorry.
and we will invite counsel into our executive session.
Yes, Marshall?
Yes, Clark.
And yes, O'Sullivan.
No, we're
Let us
off,
know
right?
when we're ready.
Yeah.
whatever we have for people coming in, and we can give like an
Right.
hour to make sure we
Yeah.
cover all those people. An executive could start at 7:30, and then we make sure we get the room cleared before then. That's my only concern for that. I don't know, we're here either way.
Yeah.
But we'll do that in the future. It's a little late today. So we'll move on then to, we're not deleting it, we'll get back to that, to the streetlight LED conversion. This is something the board has looked at in the past on a couple occasions, and if my recollection is correct, the cost to us to install and swap out the fixtures, because we have to pay the company to do it, it would take something in the neighborhood of 10 years to see any benefits, or more to see benefits that were offsetting our expenses in doing it between the fixtures and the installation. But I haven't looked at this too carefully. That's what happened in the past, why we've never moved on it. The expense far exceeded the benefit we're gonna get. It was gonna take a long time to get any kind of payback.
Well, isn't this basically, in other words, we're using less electricity, but we're paying as if we weren't, I mean, right? And so that cost, so it's really a wash. The cost to do put different fixtures is something we pay for over, say, 10 or 15 or 20 years. I don't know exactly what they're going to do. So we would be paying that amount for just regular electricity. Now we're going to be paying for the change to the LED fixture, and we won't see any cost savings, but we will have certainly a better environmental situation, less of a carbon footprint. I mean, schools do this all the time. You know, the fixtures, the fixtures are not free, but the amount of electricity that we save offsets whatever we paid for the new fixtures.
Right, so actually, so there are three things that the town can do here. We can either do nothing, we can purchase, as you mentioned, we can purchase all of the lights, and then they become our responsibility to maintain. And then our third option here is for National Grid to switch out and make it the conversion to LED. And then the town would get a kickback of, I believe it's about $10,000. So that would be what National Grid pays us to convert all of these lights to LED. And then there's also they estimate about $2,000 in savings
Well, I think that's just a wash, but,
annually.
yeah.
So,
I mean, nothing changes, we still are paying the same bill, pretty much,
right,
with new fixtures, LED, better lighting, and better environmental
Where are you
responsibility.
getting those numbers from? I'm not seeing those in my page here.
Okay, let me go to those, I did already.
it's the first page after the agenda. That's a breakdown
Yeah.
of the annual savings.
There's not much here. It says total savings if you convert to 25-watt LED fixtures where appropriate would be $1,939.36 annually,
Right,
and a one-time incentive of $10,650.
right,
This doesn't say what it costs to install them, who installs them. This is very, very vague. So what I'm saying is, when we did this in the past, the installation costs were exorbitant.
right,
Multiple tens of thousands.
Don't they do the install?
right.
We
So
had to
that-
pay for it before, so that's what I'm worried about, that we don't. you know.
Yeah, so that would be the third option that he presented to us that I didn't ask for any more information on, because I just didn't think it was advantageous for the community to purchase all of these light fixtures. And then, not only would we have to purchase them, but then we would have to pay a company to
Install.
maintain them, because our DPW crew is not
Right,
qualified
right.
to maintain them. It requires obviously special qualifications and equipment, so it just would not be cost effective for us to do that work ourselves and make it our own property. But this decision would make it, it would still be National Grid's property. And they would still do the maintenance. If there was a light out, I would still call our representative and let him know that there's lights out. and he would send out the National Grid crew to fix it. So it would still be their property, but we would get the cost savings from it because it's cheaper electricity or uses less electricity. And then there's the incentive for the community to agree to this of about $11,000.
So the annual cost of, our electric bill pretty much doesn't change. But more of it is going to pay for the fixtures than the amount of what we're paying for the electricity, I mean, for the light itself. I mean, for the electricity cost of having that light.
Right.
I mean, I think you need more
This
detail.
isn't making any sense to me. It plainly just says, change of fixtures where appropriate. There were absolutely no contacts, it just says 2553 annually.
Mhm.
And what does that mean? We pay that much, they pay that much, we save that, it doesn't say anything. Is that the cost to run the bulbs? What's that in comparison? It's just an arbitrary number.
Well, I think
And then we have a semicolon that says one-time incentive equals,
Right. So
So-
that one-time incentive would be what National Grid
will
pays
pay
the
us.
town.
That being an incentive, that seems at least explanatory.
Right.
But I think if you want,
But this number doesn't say what it means, what it's for.
well, I think we
what it
can have the,
represents.
Which
the
number?
rep come in here.
Yeah,
and-
he's on vacation this
Yeah,
week.
and
so-
walk us through this.
One of them's 1939, one's 2553.
Right, so that's how much we would save annually. So right now, our
You're getting a
budget.
less wattage bulb, that's why.
Yeah, so our
Right.
budget right now, annually, about what we spend to light all of these light fixtures in town is about like $35,000. So annually, if we were to convert to either 25 watt LED or 20 watt LED, the savings annually off of that $35,000 would be $19,300 or
$1,900.
$1,900.
So,
Or
So they're recovering their
$2,500.
installation
Yes.
cost, so we're paying
yes,
as we go.
and the fixture cost.
And
yeah.
how long is that for?
It's for either 10 or 20 years, I'm guessing. That's what the typical is.
Yeah, they
Well,
didn't.
we need to know that, because
Yeah.
after that, there'll be huge savings.
Yes.
Because obviously, most of those bulbs are probably 300 or 500 or 1,000 watt bulbs. So
Right.
we're gonna use
A lot less
you
electricity
could say a
over time.
40th anyways, and
Yeah.
say we're gonna have a $5,000 year
But I mean, they can
expense.
come and they can walk us through this very specifically. And they've done this with the schools 100 times, you know. We have to, it's, the electric bill doesn't really change. But once,
Right.
but you have all the new fixtures and the wattage and
Well,
all
if
of
it
that.
saves us a couple grand and it get a 10,000 incentive, then and it's green, there's a lot of good reasons to
Yes.
do it, there's no negative.
Yeah.
But as I said before, this was never offered before, every time we had it before was,
Yeah.
you could buy the fixes, and they really didn't want you to do it.
Yeah.
Now it seems like they want us to do it,
Yeah.
probably because they can't take more solar on out here, the grid's been full, and
Yeah, well, I think it's great that we can have them come in when he's off vacation and talk with us about
Right.
this.
Okay.
but that I like.
Yeah.
The old way I did not like.
Yeah, I understand that, yeah.
Especially if we get down the road, if there's a payoff point where, if it's perpetually the same, then they just went huge.
Yeah.
Because then they're just saving, charging us for
Yeah, I know it.
nothing.
Yeah.
But we'll see. All right, let me keep my packet up right here. Last mile residential broadband internet expansion proposal.
So the next document that you have in your packet is from the Director of Government Relations from Charter. And this is his proposal to the town to build out all of the addresses, or build out internet to all of the addresses that
68.
we've identified and that Charter has also identified. In the
Didn't they
community.
just have a representative come in our last meeting and say they could do all this for $120,000, and they didn't know how much that would be our cost? What were
No.
they talking about at the last meeting?
They said that they were going to give us this wonderful price, though, but I don't think they said 1,000, 100,000.
She didn't have a price the last meeting for, at least for this.
What were we talking about, the expenses, $120,000, and our fiber friends said that there's no way they can do that cheap, because just,
I
and
would
we
have
said
to
they
look
probably
at
have the
it.
pole rights, and that's why they know they can just string the last little bits and finish it. But it was certainly not any place close to this number.
Yeah. I don't know.
Well, I think it's very difficult for us to make a judgment on this based upon, what about Matrix? Are they interested in taking a look at our community as a whole?
So.
Well, we've agreed to do that study.
That one.
Yeah, well, I mean, we've agreed to do it, but I don't know where they are with that.
Yeah, I really haven't heard, other than getting the contract to do that one street, I haven't heard back.
Oh,
I
okay,
haven't gotten any proposals from him. as-
okay, so they haven't given us,
Part of
okay,
the
so they're not really
study.
working at this yet,
Right.
building out the whole town and fiber optic, okay.
But I believe one of the conversations that we had with him, he was, and I may have read this wrong, but he seems to believe that he wouldn't be able to be competitive with a company like Charter
Because they've already done so much.
they already have like the rights of ways and they have more privileges than what he has, so there would be an additional cost for us to have him go onto these poles and to run all of this equipment, so.
The thing that makes me a little worried about, not only them, but other vendors these days, is that everybody just says, hey, and you can expend ARPA funds for this. And so like it doesn't really cost you anything. And I feel badly about that because unfortunately, it's really hard when they have such a hold on us for us to have a way to, drive the best price.
We're going to have to go back and review minutes or independently
For Matrix.
for last time they were here, because I'm very sure
I'm-
that when we had Matrix come in, the Charter, when they came in and presented running to the town buildings and doing our network, they also said, and we looked at the 75 homes they found.
Yeah, or
It would
the
be
80.
$120,000, but that's not our cost. That's a total, and ours would be some number less than that. And that's now gone up 4 times. Unless I'm gravely mistaken, I thought that's what they.
No, I think it's worth to go back and look.
I think we should,
Yeah.
because I was very assured that they were pitching, covering the rest of our roads. And that's when Matrix said, yeah, we couldn't come close to that, because they'd have to get all the way there first and get all the rights.
Mhm.
And they didn't understand how Charter could do that, because they still need to get the rights.
Mm.
And they said, well, they probably already have
Have
the
the
rights.
rights, right.
They probably have the rights by right, when they get the town, 40 years
Yeah, and
ago.
you're talking maybe about 75 connections.
Right.
So I think, $120,000 would be incredibly low, and that's, the last time that they came out and did an estimate, it was for cable, I believe, not internet, which cable is both, but
Right,
that
we
price
can't, we
was
can't,
a
yeah,
lot more.
we were just doing the cable number for Charter, because they were doing internet for the buildings. So it's probably not the last meeting, it's probably the meeting before. It's probably 2 meetings back. when they
I'm
were-
talking before I got here. This was back when the discussions had first started with
Mhm.
Charter, and I believe the estimate they brought to the town was over
It
$700,000.
was $760,000, and it wasn't fully inclusive.
Right,
Right, this is why it didn't get done yet.
yeah.
Well-
And that's, yeah, but when they came in last, well, we're just gonna have to look at the meeting.
Yeah.
We're not gonna recall, I don't wanna take time and go through the video here. Unless we
That's
want-
good.
I
That's
don't
good,
wanna
Greg.
recess to do that, we'll get back to it,
Yeah.
it's not pressing for tonight.
Okay. So, but this is their proposal to tie out the rest of the.
And that's what they want from us is,
Three.
$500,000.
458,000.
Well, so, and this may be where the 120 came from. So, in that paragraph above that box,
Yeah.
it says that Charter may be able to contribute up to $2,000 per passing, so up to $136,000 off the total amount noted below. So that would bring our
Oh.
estimated cost down to $323,000.
Not at all with 120,000 comes what I was talking about. Because they very clearly said it's 120,000, that's the total cost, but they typically pick up some portion of that, and therefore our number would be less, and they couldn't give us the exact number, they get back to us with it. And now it looks like the number's gone up by a factor of 4. Maybe I'm mistaken. It's happened. I certainly can do things wrong, I'm human.
And I've put this priority through to Senator Goby's office as well, because she reached out
Great.
to the communities looking for projects. to prioritize at the state level, because the state has a lot of ARPA funds as well that they don't have a plan for yet. So in the spirit of the need for rural broadband internet services, I added Barry's
Yeah.
estimated cost to that group as well, hoping that, the more towns that put in for this kind of service expansion will elevate the need at the state level for rural communities.
Wasn't there a grant also that came out with like $200,000 potentially per town to, was it from Central Mass Regional Planning,
We
or was
were
it from a
overqualified.
compact,
We have-
compact
We
grant?
had too
Oh,
much,
it
too
might-
much connectivity.
We had like 95%
Oh,
connectivity, so we
okay,
were
so that's-
qualified. They were
okay.
looking for like 60%.
Got it.
or less,
Well,
something like
I
that.
think what you're talking about is community compact grant, which is new for this year.
Yeah, because they have some internet stuff in there.
Yes.
We should look at that too, I guess.
Yes.
Okay, I agree with Greg.
All right, chapter 90 expenditure list approval.
Kind of scary.
Not the last DPW, I missed out in the meeting before. We went over and created a list that the DPW commission agreed on, and we had to bring that to the board formally here to vote on it, because we are the ones that expend the chapter 90 funds. So that was Spring Hill Road for a cost of $296,345. Old Colebrook Road is $62,718. And Stetson Road, I don't see a number there.
I did not get a number because that road wasn't in Jason's original proposal of roads to do with cost estimates, so I didn't
Right.
have a proposed number for Stetson.
Okay.
Was not the list longer than this?
Well, there's already proposed roads we've approved
Yeah.
before, they're still on the list. So there's already pre-approved roads.
Right.
I remember I added Stetson at the meeting, I said, because the police have been asking for Stetson to be done, because obviously
Yeah.
that cuts across, it's probably almost 2.5 miles to go up and
Yeah.
around where they can shoot across that road, there's probably a half a mile, so it saves
A lot of
a good
time.
run. So I wanted that road on there, but I think we have to have a dollar amount to approve it.
Mhm.
We have still, I think the figure was 1.4 million in the chapter 90 funds. So we, it's not a question of do more roads now, there's only so much time they have, and this is reasonable things they thought they could get to within the next calendar year, including Stetson. So I'd make a motion, we approve Spring Hill Road and Old Colebrook Road, and we'll do Stetson at another date when we get the number from.
So moved.
Okay. That was second?
That was a second.
A second?
Oh, wait,
I made the
second,
motion,
sure.
okay, thank you. Motion a second to approve the paving chapter 90 fund expenditure for Spring Hill and Colebrook roads. Any further discussion? Call for vote, then all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right. Do we have other business? We don't, do we?
Well,
Just a
Unless you
place marker.
wanted to bring up the cheese in the mill.
Not yet. I'll
Okay.
give people time.
Okay.
If they want to pipe in.
Well,
they
nobody's
will.
listening, so whatever.
It's on the correspondence anyways
Okay.
properly, so I just wanted to give a heads up, as Dylan pointed out, that we did get a correspondence and it just didn't make this list. Video recording and of boards and committees. I gotta stop, where are my glasses? We just talk about broadband, so. I have them at home. So, have we gotten anywhere on contacting any boards or committees? Have you heard from them, any inputs?
We did hear from, I don't know if it's conservation or planning or both. Mary Ann Gendron wanted to know if we were talking about the community center, the youth community center, that larger room, and not necessarily, right? So I said, I think that's what we were talking about. We were talking about the third floor. We were talking about that area where there is an opportunity for some assembly.
Second floor.
No, that's third floor.
Third floor, and the top
No,
floor.
we're second floor, so
Yeah.
top floor, we were talking about their room, 'cause that's
Yeah,
what they need.
yeah, what they call the youth center that hasn't been a youth center since I was a youth.
Oh, no, they've
kidding.
used it, come on now.
That's a long, no, you don't have to make it like the building would have been falling down, Jessica.
No, we were specifically talking about, what they use is their room upstairs, because that's where the files and everything are
Yeah.
for easy reference. So doing it upstairs, they would be really to take care of that committee.
Mhm.
It would be, probably planning board likes to use that room as well, cover two committees that like to use.
How big
that
is the room?
specific
I'm not familiar with
a
it.
third of the size of this
Okay.
quarter. It's very small.
Yeah,
But, you know, they sort of have their table and that's it, and there's an office out behind that where they have a lot of records and documents that they refer to during the meeting, so it was convenient for them to have it right there. Did they have a preference as whether you use their room or the large room, or?
They made no-
preferred the larger room,
the
They
one,
did.
the youth center.
okay.
They do?
Yeah.
Oh, but
I-
that's
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 good.
fantastic, because
Yeah.
that makes it more usable for, because
Yeah.
other times, there's been times we have meetings and somebody else wants to meet and they just go upstairs to that room. They
Yeah.
could go to the larger room and have a better meeting or hearing, so
Mm-hmm.
that would be more beneficial.
I think that it might be useful for us as we think about this, if we could have our geek people or our IT
Right.
people
Look
look
at
at that, look at the senior center, look at, what do we talk about? We talked about the townhouse or the town hall.
Town hall somehow, yep,
Yeah, look at that.
something.
And then that would be 4 big,
Yeah,
reasonably
we
deep.
already have this, if we could, that would be 2, 3, 4.
Yeah.
And we talked about maybe 2 rooms over at the senior center.
Yeah,
Maybe do
right,
that
if we did that
side
side
room
room
as
too,
well.
yeah.
Yeah,
So
that's
if we
pretty
could have the
large.
IT people give us an evaluation of that, because they might say this room is no good or that room is really good.
And then we'd have to start pursuing costs from
Yeah.
companies, which is
Yeah.
probably gonna go out for RFP, because it's gonna, we're probably talking, if you just average $1,000 a camera, which they're probably more for this type, we're probably more like 3,000 or 4,000 or 5.
Mhm.
I mean, they get so expensive.
Mm.
I don't even know this commercial one, but I would guess maybe around 5.
Mhm. I have no idea. So I would bow to your expertise in this.
Well, what I actually included in the packet is a kind of a questionnaire. I
Oh.
submitted it in your packet today. I didn't
Yep.
make it the packet for last Thursday, but just a kind of a formal questionnaire that I was going to send around to boards and committees, so they have the opportunity to let us know what their needs are, because I think that's something where I would like to gauge kind of the boards and committees, what their understanding of, like, what this kind of entails.
Short and sweet,
For
it
their-
looks good.
Yeah, I left the last question open-ended if they had any other questions that we didn't think of.
I
But
would,
I think it would be good for.
I would move we send the survey out prepared by Jessica Sizer and provided for the board's review to all appropriate, town
Boards and
boards.
committees.
Boards and committees.
I'll second that motion, please.
Motion is second to circulate this questionnaire. Any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for vote. All those in favor?
I,
Aye.
Now, is this gonna go to the certain boards and committees that have been picked out for this bylaw, or for all? of
just do them all of them.
Okay.
Do all for now, because we modified the bylaw on the meeting floor to include
Several times.
all,
Yeah.
all boards and committees. So we may yet try to bring that back at town meeting and
Right, and go to.
abridge it a little bit, because I think it's gonna be a little overreaching to get everything in there.
Especially when we see the price.
Yeah.
Would it be advantageous to include the language that was approved at the meeting in the survey, just for the,
Yeah,
so whoever is filling this out doesn't have to go and look that up?
sure.
Either, yeah, just do it a separate page, you can just attach it. That would make that easy to do. We have meeting minutes from October 4th, executive session and open session. We look to approve executive and not release. Approve and release open session. That can be my motion, that can be a motion.
Well,
Has the clerk reviewed the,
Yep, I'm good with it.
so that was your motion?
That was my
Second.
motion. So I have a motion second to approve the executive session minutes not for release and the open session minutes for release from October 4th. Any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Those are done. Now, we'll get to correspondence. We'll start with a letter from Phil Hubbard regarding An electronic sign on the common, to sum it up, he's against it. Dr. Marshall, would you like to read that? You give that one to the clerk to read publicly.
If required, I will do so.
And just let people see what it is and hear it.
Actually, it's not a letter to us, it's a letter that's been forwarded to the Barre Historical Commission. And the person writes, "As a member of the Barre Historical Society and former chair of the Barre Planning Board, I request that the commission not permit the use of an electronic sign for the town common, as proposed by Paul Cranston of the Barre Common Committee. I believe the quaint rural character of our community would be adversely impacted. I suggest that any infrequent community announcements be made using the existing electronic sign as needed." And that letter was forwarded, as I said, to the Barre Historical Society, and it appears that Mr. Philip M. Hubbard, the author of this letter, is a member of the Barre Historical Society. Whether or not they have the firm and final decision-making on whether or not we would produce such a sign or put a sign on is questioned for me. But also, I would just say, if anyone wanted to make a comment about an inappropriate flashing sign that might be placed on the common, to say that the one that the Barre Highway Department has now,
In front of the IGA?
yeah, I mean, really? I shouldn't do that, but, I
So
mean,
anyways, that was our correspondence
Yeah, well,
to
thank
Mr.
you.
Hubbard. I was CC'd in that email. I don't know if anybody else was, but that was emailed to me as well, so I
Yeah.
didn't see it ahead of time.
but again, the Historical Commission hasn't made a decision on this. This is just him asking that the Historical Commission review this and
Right,
deny
and
it.
I don't know if they have any direction or involvement in that anyways. We've certainly talked about it in meeting a couple of times, and I think Mr. Cranston's working on some ideas for us to see what it might look like that we can present before we bring it up to that. I think this is something we'd probably put in the town meeting floor anyways, let the town have a vote on this.
Well, I think also that the Historical Commission would be helpful in giving us some ideas, so don't get me wrong.
Right.
So I think that their role is important, an important one.
Right, and they can certainly say we don't want it, but if we had to have
Yeah.
it, it would be nice if it kind of did this.
And it might be located at this juncture.
Might
Should
be.
we reach out to the historical commission and ask them to submit an official recommendation or any
Well,
ideas?
I think that may be
to us?
premature, do you think?
I'd like to see what we get back from Mr. Cranston first and get a little further along, and then bring them in and you know, and see what they think of the ideas and you know.
Well, I mean, we haven't even,
It's, I think it's gonna eventually, I mean, this is the kind of thing I'd rather put in the town body for town meeting. I don't want the three of us to say, this is a great idea, and have 90% town go, oh my God, what did you do to the common?
Yeah. Well,
You give them the chance at town meeting to vote it up or down, and then it's bigger than the Historic Society, it's bigger than us, it's bigger than everybody.
You mean the three of us shouldn't commission a statue of the three of us,
Oh, God, no.
along with the Welcome to Barre banner?
Well, we might give a target for tomatoes.
Yeah,
but, you know, it's-
good
Well,
point.
Maybe,
You know.
maybe if we, when we get Mr. Cranston back, because he was on the schedule, he was on the agenda last meeting and he couldn't attend for whatever reason. So maybe when we have him again, maybe we could reach out to the historical commission and see, just to put that bug in their ear, maybe they should pay attention to that meeting so they can start thinking about it.
Sure, I think that's a good
Just a
idea.
good faith reach out to them and let them know
It
that
certainly can't hurt.
their
It's,
opinions are
Mhm.
important to us.
Not everyone's gonna follow what we're doing online, so since it does pertain to them, it would be wise to give them a little heads up so they can become involved if they'd like to. Now, our poll petition for Barre Depot Road, I thought this was a done deal and settled, that's why I just said, what, can you look into it? What have we missed here?
So it seemed like a done deal, but I think the board may have unintentionally created some gray area because,
Our
so.
discussion with Jason.
Yes. So back in April, actually back in March, there was a poll petition for, there's a poll petition and then a conduit petition. And so I've included that, the information on that in the packet. The petitions were postponed or continued in the April 5th meeting because Jason hadn't responded to a request basically for his input. And then at the April 5th meeting, Greg had stated that Jason, he reviewed the plans and he had requested that National Grid digs far enough back so it doesn't disturb the public way. But the specific, and I included the minutes of that too from April 5th. But the specific vote that the select board made at the time was to approve the conduit petition, not amended. And the conduit petition gave the cuts into the public way. So.
I don't remember it being that they shouldn't cut in the public way. He was concerned that they stay far enough away from our services, our water and sewer that may be under there. I believe that was it's hard to recall from then, but it wasn't the public way, it was the public utilities.
It was the pavement. Like, he doesn't want the pavement to be disturbed.
Because it's just been
It
somewhat.
was just repaved. Barre Depot Road was just repaved last year.
I mean, there's no water or sewer in that particular section of property, is there?
Barry Depot's the part that goes up over the hill, isn't it?
Into
Yeah.
Ocam.
But past the
Right.
landfill.
So there
I
shouldn't
just
be-
don't
there
see,
shouldn't
I don't
be
think
any-
there's anything there.
I don't think there, yeah, there's.
No, I don't think it comes out there. How far down does it come?
I mean, they have some drawings here, but I don't know if that really gives you an idea. I talked with with him about this, only because I wasn't around on the 5th. I wasn't a selectman at that point, but it appears to me that it's not really about water and sewer. It's about, he didn't want his
Didn't want the new road.
new road,
torn up.
okay, torn up, or whatever they had to do. And yes, they do, you know, you take the responsibility of fixing it to our sort of
Right.
satisfaction.
And the public right-of-way must extend beyond the road, is that what he meant then?
Even-
Because the right-of-way is typically, I think, like 40-some odd feet wide, the roads usually aren't that wide, they cover
Right.
some portion of it.
Yeah.
So it's still a right-of-way, but not in the roadway.
I think the most cost-effective way for them, National Grid, is to obviously disrupt the new pavement.
Right, but according to this note, that it's not feasible for them to dig outside of the right-of-way due to the proximity of the New England power structures that are located in the area.
Is new, to us, new information.
See, because it looks like they're going along the side of the road.
Yeah.
And the right-of-way, that's our right-of-way without
Yeah.
being the road.
Mhm.
These are the places they'd have to dig under the
Right.
road. So whether they can, I don't know if they intend to tunnel under, or if they have
I
to
think,
tear it up.
I don't think they plan to tunnel under it.
Because I would think they could tunnel, I would think.
Do they have to breach the road twice?
No, it's just one line, so they'll do curb to curb paving
Mm.
in one area.
Although this diagram shows.
It looks like-
Well, is this just a measurement? Is that, it looks like it's going under there as well.
I believe it's only one disturbance of the public way.
I think it's this one, Greg, it might help be more useful to you.
Just say that. So maybe this is the poles they want to get rid of and go underground from?
Yeah. Protecting pictures, blah, 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 said poles to be erected substantially in accordance with the plan. So they're gonna erect poles. Also for permission to lay and maintain underground laterals, cables and wires in and above or intersecting the public ways for the purpose of making connections with such poles and buildings as each of the said petitioners may desire for disturbing purposes. It does look like maybe they're gonna do it twice.
Yeah, they're saying the new locations, they've got all the, you know,
Mm.
the legend showing what they're doing where.
I mean, it,
And then what was the purpose for this again?
So this
Reason?
area on Barre Depot Road is a and I forget the term that they use for it, but essentially, a lot of people get their power from this area, and in the Department of Public Works at the state level, they noticed that this is a high priority area because it's responsible for a significant number of outages throughout the year. And so this area affects about 6,000 of their customers, not just within Barre, but obviously.
Mostly not in Barre at that point, that goes to
Right, it's so
Ocam
close to
very
Ocam,
quickly.
but it does impact residents in Barre and then also residents in the surrounding area. And it affects their electricity during bad weather events essentially. So this is a high priority area.
We've
for
had a
the
few, and
state.
even this year, some of the severe storms that came
Yeah, I
through,
know.
everything seemed to drop down in that area. They got hit hard this year.
I mean, I know this probably doesn't please Jason, obviously, because it's going to, sever the new macadam that he's got there.
Yeah.
I just don't know if this is something where we really have a lot of option.
Yeah, I mean, I think right now National Grid is doing their due diligence in reaching out to the town, and, they've repeatedly made efforts over the past, I would say, month or two, trying to either work with Jason or work with myself on coming to a resolution when, I think the vote that the board had made gave them permission to do this work, but I do feel that National Grid, they try to maintain a good relationship with the communities. Our representative, he's a really great guy, so I have really good working relationships with him, and, this is just part of their efforts of keeping up those good relationships and not just plowing through and digging through. So they really want to make sure that they truly have the support of the board, and if they, and they even offered to file an additional petition to revisit this issue formally.
Is weather an issue? Are they trying to get this done, like
Yes.
ASAP or something?
Yeah, so they are trying to they do have a goal of November 15th to get this all done by. They're currently working in the area on the other part of the petition, which is the pole petition. So if you go down Vernon Ave, and they're kind of like in that area, Vernon Ave and Barre Depot Road.
Removing and replacing poles and alternate positions and bigger poles and everything else.
Yes, so they are actively working down there, and that's why this is in front of you guys tonight, is because they want to make that last.
So I'm guessing we have lines across the road in those two places, why they want to go underground?
I haven't been out there.
That's the only thing I'm puzzled on, why are we going under instead of over? Is that, you think it'd be easier to go cut the trees out of the way than go back and go under the ground? That's the only thing I'm not clear why you're going under there. I don't understand why that's the desire. You understand what I mean? Because we're still having poles down either side before and after these crossings. And most of this electricity will be carried on the poles for most of the distance. So I don't understand the advantage of going under at those points.
Well, maybe,
I think it's because it's a conduit, and I don't
well,
know.
it's not just a regular wire.
Right,
It's a conduit into which something larger is going?
Right, but I don't know
Yeah.
why if you're carrying it down the pole,
Yeah.
why wouldn't you just link it across and keep it overhead in the pole?
Well, anytime I could put it underground, I would.
well, I mean.
Right, but if everything else is above ground. It's
Yeah.
like if you get 90% above ground, what's the advantage of sticking this little piece underground? There must be an advantage, I
I
don't
was gonna say, there
understand.
has to be an advantage because the
Seems like it'd be
amount
more
of
costly.
resources that they have to put into digging up a road,
Yeah, it's
repaving
much
it.
more costly and
It- Yeah, instead of just running a wire, so there's,
Can we find out that information?
yeah.
I mean, 'cause when I spoke with Jason about this some months ago probably, his issue just was, well, let him do something else. He didn't say let him go over, he basically said they don't have to do this, they can dig alongside the road, but it appears that that's not the case. So I think we just need resolution as to why, and
Yeah, I mean, because clearly the poles go back and forth across the road, so there must be a right-of-way digging issue. Then,
yeah,
you know,
something.
the road may go straight, our right-of-way may come curved like this. and-
Perhaps.
And the road is just going down the middle of the
Yeah.
right-of-way. So they can't just come down one side, they have to cross.
Yeah.
But once again, they say it's 150 feet, all the poles are, I don't know why they can't span that with a pole.
Are
You
they,
know, we get
are they,
150, 150,
but I thought they were
150,
only
why
gonna
couldn't-
breach the road surface once. So I wonder if one of these is going over and the other one is going under for some reason. I don't know.
But they're both 150 still, and that's
Yeah.
what I don't understand.
So it
Well-
seems like we have a few questions.
Yeah. So,
I mean, if they just prefer to do it, I don't want to go dig the road up because they just want to go under instead of over. If there's a real reason that they've got to go under, because as you said, it's got to be more expensive to go under than over.
I would think.
They've got to bring it down the pole, they've got to dig the trench, lay the conduit,
Yeah.
large enough for probably at this point, you're going to
To
have,
pull something else in case.
they probably just need the high voltage or high tension, the 13,000 volt lines under, because I don't think they're feeding anything off of there, and then that would pick up to wherever the first house is, the transformer to drop down the line voltage.
Mm.
So it's probably just the high voltage going under.
Well,
And that's something I'd rather see overhead if we could.
now, is there any chance that a representative from National Grid can attend our next meeting?
Yes.
That might be the best thing to answer the
Yeah, I
questions.
mean, I thought this was settled and they'd.
Well, they thought it was too.
That they'd worked it out with Jason and they were in agreement, I thought,
Well,
and that's,
I think, so it's my understanding that after they came before the board and it was voted to approve, the National Grid went to Jason and,
He had a different opinion than the board.
right.
Okay.
all right, well, let's just see if National Grid will give us the answers to why they want to go under and not over. If it's a have to or they just want to. Is it cost effective, which I doubt. Is there some reason they're doing it? And, you know, as far as cutting a road, you know, I don't care what road we pave, if we have a sewer line break, we're gonna dig it up and fix it.
I know,
It
yeah.
happens every day, it's not the end of the world. So I'm not overly worried about cutting the road, but I don't wanna cut it if we don't have to.
Yeah.
So we'll find out if they can go overhead.
Yeah,
And
I
if-
mean, I had suggested that they go to a DPW commission meeting, but then it was.
We didn't
canceled.
even have a quorum last time, so it'd probably be better that they come here.
Right, so,
Okay. And
But
obviously,
this
make
has
sure
kind of
that,
been like
make sure that
months.
Jason is invited.
right.
It's the
this
first
is
one I
kind
missed in
of
ages too.
Oh, well, you didn't miss anything, because nobody
months
else was
in the-
there either.
Wow.
So, yeah, so this has
It's
kind of
still
been
in
like,
May.
kind of months in the works, because, you know, they've been trying to reach out to Jason, and then I suggested they go to a DPW commission meeting, and then sometimes they're canceled, or,
Well, there were just they weren't there to my knowledge.
No, I got home late and I looked, I wonder if there's a meeting, I checked online, there was an email from Shannon telling everybody that
Yeah.
the commission meeting was that night, so I'm like, whoop, I missed it.
Yeah.
But it's tough sometimes on
Yeah.
Tuesdays, so people have other things they do and they're not planning on being there, the off night,
Well,
you know.
can we just have them come and
Yeah,
discuss with
I-
us
I
on
think so.
on the first?
And, you know, if that's Jason's only adversity is digging up the road, then we'll weigh that against
Their needs.
the needs of.
Well, see, the needs of National Grid, you know, while we just think it's their company, there's also all the customers that they have. And we want to make sure that the customers get the service they deserve.
Right, there's definitely a lot of interruption from down there.
Yeah.
You see a lot of it on Facebook.
Yeah.
The trees could come down there all the time.
Yeah.
And I don't know if this really addresses all that, or if
Yeah, I
this
don't
is
either.
part of it to go under, but we'll find out why, and we'll go on from there. All right, select board reports, anybody have any individual reports?
I have
this week?
nothing.
I do
No.
not. Well, that was awful quick. That brings us to the town administrator report.
I don't have too much tonight. Ellen and I have been working with, a couple of vendors on digitalizing our documents, because I got that grant last year for it. But I think part of the prep work that I didn't fully appreciate and understand when I got into this project was just how the sheer volume of information that the community has and the lack of organization.
It's a large vault down there, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's not even
beyond
that.
the vault. The vault's like the least of the problem. But, so we're working with a company out of Wilbraham, and they are kind of the go-to people for archival
Requirements.
requirements and just execution. So we actually, the community went through a couple of weeks where we had the president of the company, she came out and she worked in all of our spaces. She got an idea on how much paper we have, and then she came back to us with another one of her employees and gave us an outline of what it's gonna take to organize these documents. So we are going to take the old squad room downstairs and we're gonna turn it into a facility for document organization. They've outlined, they have a whole setup that they're going to bring to us, and their employees do all of the work. So they tell us what we need to shred. They don't actually do the shredding, they can, but that's an additional service. So they tell us what we need to shred, and then they organize all of our documents, and they put it into a database. And each box is labeled.
You could be retired by this time.
I mean, this is a intense project, but they are going to, you know, I've seen it done in other communities.
Oh, yeah.
They do a really excellent job, and it's going to be really nice for.
Is the grant big enough for this?
Yes, it is.
Thank
It's a
God.
pretty good sized grant. So luckily, yeah,
'Cause
'cause
it's-
it is a very, I mean, this part of the work
As
is
big as the
taking
grant
up-
is, I'm surprised it's big enough for this,
Yeah.
because it's the hours would be involved.
Oh,
It's
it's just
gonna-
Yeah,
hours and
this-
hours.
This part of the work
Unless they
that
can
we're.
scan instead of data entry, makes it go a lot quicker.
Well,
Right, so-
they can probably scan, but they gotta organize, it'll take forever.
Yeah, so this part of the grant is actually a little over 50% of the entire grant.
Yeah.
So it is, it's a substantial cost, but it's one of those things where, as I've mentioned, when I talk about ARPA, like certain projects kind of get delayed because they're not as pressing as something that breaks. And this is one of these projects where the community has needed it sorely, and I love organization, so I'm very excited to see this through. And then also just give all of our employees a central location where if they're looking for a historical document, or if they're looking for some kind of paperwork that they need for research that they're doing, like, it's gonna be in a central location. They're not gonna have to go to the old town hall. They're not gonna have to go to the, you know, Chief Rogowski has a problem with storage. So, you know, all of his stuff is going to be in one location, organized. So we're looking forward to that, and then staying on track, right? So making sure that we're destroying things on the schedule, and making sure that we are organizing and archiving things as we come across them, so.
I just say be careful in the squad room. I know it always has damp issues. I don't know if it has water that gets in, so I'd be careful of what you put on the floors and
That's actually the
just be
driest.
mindful.
Yeah, that's actually, we've determined that out of the two rooms.
Possibilities.
Yeah, out of our two possibilities, that old auditorium and the squad room is much drier than the old auditorium.
The old
So
auditorium.
that's why we're using that there, but we can
I
always.
don't know.
Me either.
I know that the library, they have a new dehumidifier, and it's
We do.
worked well. That's a report I've gotten.
Oh, trust me, they haven't been complaining, so it's
So-
working well.
So, you know, that wasn't a very heavy lift. It was only maybe $1,300 for, you know, keeping an area dry. But the boxes that they provide us with are also heavy duty, so if they get wet, they're meant to withstand, you know, they're not gonna shrivel up and disappear.
Are we gonna need any fire retardant filing anymore, or we'll just have everything would be archived digitally?
Well, there are certain things like what's in Ellen's vault, and not everything in Ellen's vault needs to be
Yeah,
in the vault, but there are certain things that will stay in the vault, that needs to stay in there, and then everything else doesn't need to be protected.
okay.
But we have 3 vaults at the Old Town Hall if we need them. We just would have to fix them a little bit because they have their own issues.
Yeah.
All right.
I think that's it for tonight.
Well, that moves us on to public comment period. Does anybody have anything they'd like to share this evening?
Wanna
Mike,
No,
here
circle
none?
back to
Other
that?
than
Do
just
we wanna
the-
circle back to that?
Okay, the
Yeah,
milk
we'll
and-
circle back to the correspondence we had
Yeah, cheese and milk,
about
or
cheese
whatever the hell it is.
and,
Butter.
cheese and butter. What's that?
Where am I gonna put that? Common?
And yeah, just, well, under
Correspondence?
correspondence, yeah.
Okay.
So that's what we talked about earlier, it's just that they had sent us a letter just letting us know what they're doing, it's nothing to do with us, they're applying for a grant. And they just wanted to know if the
Just-
town would show support for such a venture for them. It's actually important for the grant writers to know that the community
Yep.
does support and that the town supports the farm. And of course, I think we've supported the farm in most of the ventures they've been doing, and I would certainly be willing to write a letter of endorsement for them for such a venture.
I would move
For the
that that the board authorize the administrative assistant to prepare the letter of support requested by Molly Stevens Dubois regarding her application for a grant, and I think it's cheese
The
and...
cheese-making
Cheese
facility?
making,
Cheese butter.
cheese and butter making facility. I would assume on the property that, on West Street.
Yes, they said they were going to erect another building up close to the store in the
Yeah,
barbecue
I think
area
that's it.
for processing. So they'd be taking their dairy products and doing some final product instead of just
Yeah.
shipping it all out. So we have a motion
Second.
and a second for a letter of support. Do we have any further discussion? Here, now I'll call for vote. All those in favor?
I,
Aye.
Great.
Hope they get their grant. and get that going.
You look like you're willing to entertain a motion.
I am.
Well, I'd like to make a motion to adjourn this evening.
second.
Motion second to adjourn. Any further discussion? Call for vote. All those in favor?
I.
Aye. We are done. Look at that.